welcome. And you tuning in on Another Perspective. I'm your host, Chris Davis, aka Smooth Cuts. You tuning in on Another Perspective. And to my intermediate left, we have my boy, Maurice Walls, aka Maurice Walls.
What's going on, everybody?
We just having a little technical difficulties, but again, it feels good to be here on another note. And we have some good topics we're going to discuss about. So we're going to talk about we have Colin Kaepernick still doing the mist era of football. Yeah. So we're gonna chime in on the Colin Kaepernick or doing something very positive aspect. So go ahead, chime in.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick just recently, I believe he was in New York at a high school. I don't know if it was in Brooklyn. It was in Harlem. Okay, I was about to say Brooklyn. All right, so give a shout out to all those New Yorkers. This is a shout out from Chicago, but at any rate, he was out giving out backpacks and book bags and backpacks at this high school in New York. And oh yeah, by the way, I just want to go ahead and welcome our other panelists. He has arrived, brother Ace the Real.
Ace the Real.
What's up, family? How y'all doing? This is Ace the Real.
Absolutely.
IntellectualRadio.com. Another perspective. I was caught in traffic, but y'all go ahead, and I'm gonna chime in later.
Oh, well, go ahead. Well, speaking of Colin Kaepernick, we have some other football NFL that's going on with saying about taking a stand, and he's supporting, with the black movement in the NFL, and also with other sports following the NBA. So you have players taking a stand and also bearing chains together. So it's all about coming together as brotherhood and sisterhood. So I like that about it. It's all about black awareness, black rising, and so forth. So we just making sure that Donald Trump gets the message out there that, hey, look, we're able to take a stand because of what we believe in.
Absolutely. I mean, I fully embrace and support what those African American brothers and sisters are doing. But in addition to that, hi Nikki, how you doing? In addition to that, it's also bringing an atonement with other ethnic groups, because everybody, like across the world, has faced some type of injustice and devastating injustice, and it's just good to know that with the African American brothers and sisters that are here taking a stance against social injustice, other people are getting on board and saying, hey man, black lives do matter,
Not just only black lives matter, we have all lives matter as well, because they also, different race also support of what the American flag and so forth for the national anthem and so forth.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I wish more people knew the history behind the national anthem. And I'm not going to go into like a long detail about it, but I'll give you like a real short and sweet historical education on the national anthem. The national anthem was written by the guy named Francis Scott Key, and he was a person who was a slave owner. He owned about, I think, well over 200 slaves. And in addition to that, he eventually made it into Congress. And when he got into Congress, he did everything in his power to fight against abolitionists. He fought against abolitionists. And around the time that he wrote the national anthem is when the British to America and to attack. And what happened was the British forces said, hey, they told all of the black and all of our brothers and sisters who were enslaved, hey, if you come and fight for us, we'll give you your freedom. All right. So about anywhere between 6,000 and 10,000 African American brothers joined the British. And at that particular time, I think there was a war going on at the particular location, I believe, was Fort Henry. It was somewhere on the northeast coast, and they were fighting. And a lot of African Americans joined, and they received their freedom through the British by fighting. And this is during the time of Francis Scott Key, who wrote the national anthem. He was writing about, everything that he personally witnessed, so it's empirical data. Everything that he witnessed, he was writing about it in the song.
Now, with that part when he said bombs bursting in air, what the phrase do you pray tell what bombs bursting in the air.
Well, he was referring to just the actual explosions and the actual war that was going on at that particular time. And this is when the British were fighting America, and British were fighting the English colonists here. I don't want to say America, but English colonists, because this is America is the indigenous land of the Native American people. So when you say America, they're inclusive. It's all inclusive. And Francis Scott Key, he wrote this song, based on the war and based on what he saw, empirical data. And ultimately what happened was he wrote a third verse, and that third verse we don't sing anymore, where he was talking about and every slave and every hireling, however you pronounce it, we will always keep them under our control. They will always be under us. And basically he was just talking about how the African American slaves will always be under our control, even if we have to, kill them off or throw them in the graves. Otherwise, we're all, paraphrasing, we will always keep our foot on their necks. That's the third verse of the national anthem.
It's certain
that we don't even sing anymore.
It's certain verse that they left out because it's a lot of stuff that's hidden out into the Star Spangled Banner. So we have to educate our children about what the Star Spangled Banner is all about.
Absolutely. That's the thing. People don't know what it's about. And so you have all these congressmen and these people, these white privileged people, either they're uneducated about the history of the national anthem, or either they do know and they don't care because they're expressing their racism. And when you express those sentiments of racism, it's like a two-way street. Either you don't know or you do know and you don't care. And there's no way these guys are sitting in office. Like, for example, on Pence just visited a football game, right? And he walked out because the players were kneeling. Now, some people were saying that this was some type of PR stunt. But here's the thing. Here's a man who's educated. He's from Ku Klux Klan in Indiana. I'm not saying everybody in Indiana supports them. But here it is. These people in Congress, they have education, they have degrees in political science and other knowledge. You mean to tell me you don't know the history of the national anthem? Come on, man. Anybody? Come on, man. We were born that night. Let
me give you the Ace perspective.
Go ahead, brother.
You feel me? The national anthem is not for us, period.
Absolutely.
It's against us. If you really read the whole content of the song, white supremacy. And that anthem is a subliminal message where it shows that white folks are superior. It's about a superiority complex. I'm not against America. I love the United States because of the historical value it got with my family that made the transition from St. Louis and from the South. That's how I became, my grandmother and my grandfather. The history of that national anthem, we were still slaves. We wasn't even a part of that genre of lifestyle anyway. You know what I'm saying? We can have history lessons all day. You know what I'm saying? My thing is free speech. If white folks can call us Negroes, coon, dot, gorilla, whatever they want to call us, and it's okay. But as soon as we flip the script and call them racist, cracker, Caucasian, mountain junkie, whatever you want to call them, you know what I'm saying? So don't throw stones if you can't get that strong thrown back at you. You know what I'm saying? So we're not going to sit here and waste our time even talking about that, because we already know. And the thing is, they getting antsy because we starting to get more and more educated every day. Racism do exist. We fighting it because not only black folks, it's even white folks that don't condone the situation that it is. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. And every day you hearing cases and cases of cases where white folks is going against their own because the injustice of you doing to human life, period. Not just black, Mexican, Asian, but human life, period. Because they even white if they love us. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, Paleface, you are a part of us because you got some gene of us. So shut up and get in line and let us do what we need to do to make this country, this world a better place. Because everything that you see today is white folks is trying to destroy. Not all. White folks that their hands are tied. If they don't ride with the status pro quo, they're basically scared to get, you know, go to jail, whatever the case may be, how you want to say it. But at the end of the day, we as people, black people, we need to be able to be more educated, understand what's going on, fight the oppression, love ourselves. If we love ourselves, then we can love others.
That's so 100.
Whatever you got that's hindering you to be a better person, let it go. Because you see the fight that we really fighting is the people that's trying to fight against us. And we ain't fighting against us. It's just the pressures and the powers that be and the way the world is being generated to us. It make us go to another level of thought. You know what I'm saying? Even I, you know what I'm saying? I'm not previous to what's going on in the world. I just can't stand when white folks try to ignore the fact without American history, black history.
So basically being in denial.
It's in denial. Oh, they want to be so superior, like their skin is the best skin. No. You know what I'm saying? You're acceptable to diseases. You scribble up when you die. Just face the fact. If you had more melanin like us, maybe you'll last a little longer. You won't be changing into that alien that a lot of people are changing into. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We could take this whole scientific level.
And I love where you touched on that point, Brother Ace. And thank you guys for joining us at www.IntellectualRadio.com. It's another perspective. Brother Ace brought us something very interesting. He was talking about the scientific notion behind this, because I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. And I know some people, hey, Carl the homie Booth, how you doing? Hey, Ryan and Kareem, how you brothers doing?
K, 100K in the building.
Here's the thing about this. Some people are not going to agree with this, but it's okay. You know, we learn to agree to disagree. But race, the term race, was created by some type of sociologist or social scientist or something like that, who was into eugenics. Eugenics is, you know, dealing with studying DNA and all this biological stuff. And the reason why he created this term race, and I can't think of his name right now, but you guys can go ahead and do your information and school me and educate me. But the reason why he created this was a way to stir up a divide between people. He wanted to continue to perpetuate this whole, like Brother Ace was saying, this superiority complex. He wanted race. He wanted to create this race, this term race, to intentionally divide people so he could show that white people are superior to all races. And I don't know what his scientific discovery is based on, because
it was based on a lie. Everything is a lie.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what kills me. Let's throw facts. Don't add your own terminology, because your terminology is basically false. It's imagination. I have a dream. We had a dream. We was the dream. We are the builders. We are the sharecroppers. We are the people that made sure your kids was fed and nourished, and you had adequate living quarters while we sat there and basically lived in our own filth. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have adequate baths. And the way government it is today, let's fast forward from the days of history to now. If you look at it now, they trying to put us back from the beginning, because they have been misleading people for so long. Just like the 1%ers and the people that's up under them is divisions, and they go against their own just to make $1 out of 15 cents. My thing is, where do the black folks in our community, in our society that have a step and a leg up in the world, and they don't have to worry about suffering anymore. You know, I saw a piece on TV where, you know, you had people that struggled and made it. It's time to reach back, since you already got your foundation. After 20 million, 20, 30 million, you found you the next 15 years you can just live off interest. Okay, let's fall back. I was looking at the hip hop awards, and everybody really forgot that Luke paved the way for us to have free speech in music before NWA. You remember when he was coming out with the booty music? Yeah, it was
Doodle
Booty
Brown and all
Doodle
that
Brown,
yeah.
and you know, when he had the them other young ladies that was with him, you know, he had a crew, and it was, you know, he made a statement where they tried to shut him down and try to tell him what he can and cannot say. How could you tell a free man of today that he can't say what's on his mind or what's in front of him? If you lived in a society where you saw nothing but negativity, you seen nothing but destruction and oppression and depression, why not talk about it? Because at the end of the day, if you harbor that stuff in your mind, it's going to drive you crazy. Einstein did, because even when he slept, he talked about numbers. But really, did Einstein really do what he did, or he had a young, smart black boy?
I want to read a comment right here. This is from Ryan. This gentleman actually went to DePaul with. Hey, Ryan, how you doing? He said in 1943, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional to force people to salute salute the flag. He didn't finish. But he says only uniformed members of the military can be compelled to stand and salute the flag. Nobody wants to remember, but up until 1943, it was mandatory for high school children to salute the flag like this in school. So you're saying in 1943, the United States Supreme Court,
because they was trying to force you.
Yeah.
That's like you being a Catholic and
you're trying to be forced
a Protestant, and a Protestant priest is trying to make you be Protestant. That's like a Christian and he's being forced to be a Muslim.
And that ain't right. That don't sound right.
It don't sound right, but that's a form of mental slavery.
Yeah, social
control.
Yeah, they're controlling us.
And everybody feed into the hype. But if you really just use your sound mind and think about it, it's all entertainment. It's not real. I was looking on TV just to parallel what we talking about. I was looking on TV, and I remember when the maker of Star Wars was trying to get a science fiction or some type of educational.
Yeah, George Lucas.
George Lucas tried to do something amazing where kids could get involved into science and space.
Yeah, you want to build it right here in Chicago.
Right. But and you had the Park District Police, the people that tried to go against him, to shut him down or keep him silent on the science, not just because, the Last Jedi, but get people interested into space, because it corresponds and it correlates with what your educational criteria is today. That'll get people interested into making a rocket ship, into space aviation, get them into the stars and and the planets, get them interest.
Agreed.
And for him to get shut down, but at the same time, they trying to do something for Walt Disney, and everybody know Walt Disney is a setup for sexual undertones in their characters, and that's a shame
on television, and a lot of people don't know about that.
That we can't even, be able to express ourselves or protest without being prosecuted. Here it is now. You got the NFL commissioner trying to make a law into the NFL that you have to stand. You have to stand for the national anthem. Okay, but if you know that black folks is dominating football.
Absolutely.
Right or wrong?
Absolutely.
So if that's the case, if you want us to stand for the United States anthem, what about the African American anthem?
Lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing.
Lift
When you do
voice.
that, when you do the United States anthem, let's do lift every voice and sing. If that's the case, let's do some of the linemen from past then to now was Hawaiians, Samoans. Let's do their religion too. Okay, if you want us to salute the United States flag, let's salute their flags, our flag, that red, black, and green flag. Because you're not the only superior flag in the world. That's right. Why you have the Olympics, because it shows diversity in
integrating the world.
Exactly. So if you integrating the NFL, integrate their flags too. So don't sit here and try to open up on one entity but close down the other entity. Because you know why? At a certain point, somebody's gonna have the galls enough to go in front of Donald Trump, and he might get slapped. Dude might go to jail, but just having the pleasure of knocking his teeth out of his mouth and showing him that he's a coward, service and your CIA agents away from you, you'll be just a man like me. Right. You just got a title. You know what? That's it.
Dennis Stevenson made a question. He said, what positive message do you think today's rappers are teaching the youth? I could chime in on that. Nothing.
No. Well,
no.
You can't say nothing.
No, I'm talking about like these youthful rappers. I'm just saying like the words that
No, you can't. Yeah, all yes, that's entertainment.
Yeah, that's what they teach.
Yeah.
What is that?
That's true.
Does anybody know what skirt means?
That means the screeching of a pot. That means they basically subliminally teaching them how to cook cocaine. And when you scrape the pot, you scraping the residue from off the back of the pot. That's what that skirt from comes from.
So now they're promoting drugs.
You got some people that's drug influenced and basically drugs addicts themselves when they take it to another level. Is subliminally teaching people, kids or teenagers and babies. Because the moms and pops is playing it in the house. I'm not saying discriminate against rap.
Not at all.
Because if a lot of the hip hop, the original hip hop still exists, and they teaches, having a subconscious mind and being able to, identify the struggles through the message. But then you got these young guys that have to get in the industry. Luke said it for himself. Didn't nobody give him nothing. When he was performing, all his money went into lawyers so he can have a voice for all of us.
And that's the same thing with Master P as well. A lot of people didn't know that.
Master P the same way, but he didn't have to go through the court order. Matter of fact, you got to.
He had money already,
right?
When he first came into the industry.
No, he didn't, because he was trying to go for the NFL, from the NBA. So he was just as broke as everybody else. You know what I'm saying? But he took a contract from the white industry because they thought he was going to fail within his next year. In the next year of him getting this contract, he did an 85-15. That means he did all of his marketing. He did all of his own sales. He went, like he said, he went coast to coast in a trunk of a car selling mix CDs, and he went out there on a hustle. See, a lot of people today is not willing to bust their tail, blood, sweat, and tears. They think something got to be handed to them on a plateau. You're gonna always have to struggle when you fighting the forces that be.
He started a black NBA team. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, they didn't. It was short lived because
it's still going on. They got tournaments and stuff.
But are they on television, Chris?
I believe so.
No.
You don't think they are?
No, they doing it off of YouTube and Spotify, and you have to have closed circuit TV to get there. Because if that's the case, you can also say that white folks is trying to make an all-white NFL team where it ain't nothing but white folks on the team.
And speaking of NFL, did you guys hear this comment that Mike Dicker said recently?
Yeah, but he recanted this morning.
Yeah, and I'm so glad he recanted, because for him to sit up there and say, he hasn't heard of oppression in over 100 years. I'm like, first of all, Mike Dicker, you haven't even been around for 100 years.
Right.
All right, that's one.
But
and then
secondly, I understood what he said.
No,
I understood what he said, but then when he recanted, he clarified. He said, yes, it has been oppression in the NFL.
Absolutely.
He said that's where his head was at that time. And me, I do the same thing. I could be talking about something, and then somebody say, man, well, you can't say that. And then I have to retract and say, you know what? I was talking about that specific situation. So I respect Mike Dicker, because one thing, he wasn't racist. He was like my coach at DuSable. He didn't use color as a barrier to play the game. And that's why everybody loves him. He's the NFL's coach. You know what I'm saying? Because he played with the best of the best, and he went out and got the best of the best. But when it comes down to social injustice, a lot of white folks are out of touch because they never had to endure that.
Absolutely.
So if they can walk in our shoes or put on black skin, they making all these props to make people look like aliens and stuff. Let's put the average white billionaire into some black skin and let him hang out with me for 24 hours and let him see firsthand where's the social injustice. And when he see that, or let's get Tom Dart and put some black skin on him. Let's get a Rahm Emanuel and let him walk in our shoes. See, he looking at, you can see where politicians is trying to divide the minority to get a vote. You know what I'm saying? They trying to cut that cake, where they can be able to be relevant. So for me to sit here and stand, when it all boils down, stand for the flag, I can't do it. If it's me making my race look bad and going against the grain, or saying something that is not just, when people already have, black folks got money and they established, they look back and they can say, well, it wasn't no oppressions with me. Yes, it's still oppression, because you're still going to be a rich nigga.
Absolutely. And that's what a lot of these African Americans, with the exception of LeBron James, a lot of these African Americans don't understand is that they try to say that a lot of African Americans feel like that they may be. It was a newscaster. He was a sportcaster. Can't think of the gentleman's name, but he made this comment about like these African American athletes who are wealthy. They do not experience racism, or they are exempt, or they don't have the same type of experience. Money. But here's the thing. Here's where this guy is wrong. See, in the late 1800s, you had wealthy African American people too. You have wealthy African American. You had African Americans who were millionaires in the late 1800s and 1900s, and they experience a plethora of racism. So I don't understand this newscaster. I can't think of his name. I'm sorry, guys. How he can get on national television and say, "Well, today, if you're black, you have money. You're not going to. You are exempt from racism." I don't understand his logic.
They still people that's still rich today. Black folks that's rich, that's millionaires and billionaires, still have to go through racism.
Absolutely.
Through business.
Let me chime in. Dennis Stevenson says, do you think we are living in a world where positivity is overlooked by the media?
Positivity, yeah, because you see that now in your community.
Shout outs to Dennis Stevenson.
If you look at the media today, they don't promote black positivity.
They sure don't.
Only time they flash anything that got to do with African American is somebody toting a gun, or somebody getting killed, or somebody being arrested. Case in point, they will sit there and say 14 people within the weekend got shot up from the west side to the south side. But here it is, they downplayed this guy that killed 58 people, saying that he had a mental problem, he was a nice guy, and this try to make it seem like this guy just
was a good guy.
Or he was a good guy. He might have been a good old boy, but for him to do the terroristic act, I feel that was racism in itself, because he not only he killed white folks, he killed indigenous people too. Showing you the white folks that got hurt.
There were a lot of people that got hurt.
You can go back now when the KKK went to that college state and started whooping them white people because they like black people. And the man ran everybody over with the car and killed the white lady. It was a big old thing.
That's a good point you're bringing up, Brother Ace, because they don't ever talk about it. You right on it.
Right.
They don't, and you too, Chris, you right on it, because they never talk about, say they promote it when it's inclusive and diverse. Yeah, you're right, Sister
Absolutely.
Sanders. They never talk about the several thousand Mexicans and Jews who were lynched by the Ku Klux Klan, because they don't, because they do not want, they want to continue to perpetuate black inferiority, but at the same time, like you were just saying, they always seem to either, if you're going to attack black people in a way to keep them under this social hegemonic power, or they exclude certain things, so they don't want to put so much stereotypical or stigmas, attached too many stigmas to them, because there were thousands of Mexicans who were lynched.
Yeah,
in the early 1900s. But how many people know that?
Right, but
how many
just
people
like
know
the guy
that?
from the
And
Hidden
Jews.
Colors, just like the guy that be speaking on Hidden Colors, he said Jewish Holocaust was on film and on paper.
Ours wasn't.
Slaves, Mexicans, and Asians and Koreans wasn't.
That's right.
But they had it marked in a book. What I'm saying is, they didn't have Mr. Right, my last name. He did 20 bundles of cotton. They had nigga 1, nigga 2, nigga 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what I'm saying? They have black, and then we have the Asian. We was numbers. So we was already
just
pegged.
Statistics.
Like you said,
just like the prison system.
That number. That's your new social security number. The X. X229111, whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's how they can identify you as being African American or Caucasian.
Now, chime in on what we was discussing about your film, about the guy. We're not going to say the name.
Yeah, we was going to end that up. I finished that. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it ties into everything that you were talking about. I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that, but ultimately, what it all boils down to is African American people, brothers, Black Americans, whatever you want to call us, the bronze people. That's the color of our skin, bronze. We gotta come to an atonement with each other, especially when we're working with each other. And atonement just means peace. I just recently experienced a situation. I'm not naming any names because it's nothing personal. I have nothing personal against the individual or anything like that. I don't go around trying to attack people's characters and stuff like that. But the thing about it is, when you're working with each other in any type of capacity, you have to learn how to work together in a peaceful. And you have to have an atonement, because once you start getting into all this negative energy and bringing all this other stuff in, all it does is ultimately just rips everything apart. And this is in a creative capacity, because this is dealing with filming, and I'll share it with you after we go off. After this is documented. Yeah. So the message I'm just trying to promote is, Black people, we have to work together, but we have to work together in a spiritual agreement. We have to work together in atonement. I know we're going to have. Everybody's going to have their differences, but that's the beauty of it. There's nothing wrong with having differences, but never allow your differences to become so superficial to the point whereas it becomes personal, it becomes antagonistic, it becomes negative energy.
It goes into a fight or a fatal act.
Absolutely.
That go to 3 A's we talked about.
Can I say this? We're all together working as a spiritual agreement together on IntellectualRadio.com, which I like working with amongst these young fellas including myself. So I just want to say that in a positive aspect.
Yeah, and you know, and like Marcus was saying, you know, I don't care what disagreements or what falling out that we have as Black folks with each other. We're gonna have that.
Absolutely.
But we supposed to have a spiritual love for each other where it wouldn't demise us. You know, it'd be detriment to our health and our life. You know, it's okay to be in a place where y'all can disagree. That's what the word debate come from. You know, but at the end of the day, you're supposed to be on the same accord for the common good of film, job, business, home life, relationships, the whole nine.
And sometimes it may be a good thing to do this. And I'm just throwing out a spiritual perspective here. It's because we have the same creative gifts, and we have the same creative commonalities. It doesn't necessarily always mean we have to work together.
Right.
We can be friends. But it doesn't necessarily mean.
Yeah, I got plenty of friends that I can't work with.
You can't work with,
because you know, like if you're a carpenter, if you're a true carpenter, carpenters don't like going over carpenter's work, because now you got to double work, because you got to tear down what he did to rebuild what's your ideal of the building. I just to chime in on what we've been talking about, I had an interesting conversation with a young woman named Donna Brown, and she made a point where her daughter go to a private school, and to make a long story short, the teacher wanted them to make a prayer rug. Okay, now listen, a Islamic prayer rug. Now,
I respect that.
I respect that too, but I had her sister, Vanita, was like, you should have asked questions why you wanted this prayer rug made, and why you didn't get with the first before you made this as a work study program where they had to actually go get carbon paper and do the calligraphy on it and whatever. But my statement to that, to make it real short, every religion, it ain't about a religion, it's about the culture of the religion, first and foremost. And every religion got some form of prayer entity, a rug, a cloth, a pillow. I say the monks, you know, they fold their legs. We're not talking about the God that they serve. The whole perspective was a prayer rug. You have, to make it, just to speed it up, you have Catholics that pray a certain way with some type of artifact that's blessed by the archdiocese. You know, you got people that wear kufi hats. You got people that wear the masses. You know what I'm saying? You have, most Americans have certain hats. You know, every religion have a certain way of their prayer or what they use to pray. So my thing is the scope. What is the significance of that prayer rug in that culture? And that's all I had to say about that.
I want to give a real quick shout out because we don't have much time left. We want to thank you guys for joining us at www.intellectualradio.com. Another perspective. It's a Black owned and operated business. It's called Abundance Baited at 47th King Drive. That's 47th in Michigan. That's 105 East 47th Street. It's a Black owned and operated bakery called Abundance Bakery. Oh my God, we just had some caramel cupcakes. And I done got you a donut. I want you to try it. It's off the chain.
Oh yeah, we about to sign off. I'm Ace the Real on Another Perspective, IntellectualRadio.com.
I'm Chris Davis.
And I'm Maurice Walls, aka Maurice Walls.
And peace, and we love you.
Peace.